Good evening. It's the evening of May 16th. This is going to be a relatively quick video. I'm going to try and cover things quickly, so please watch to the end because I'm going to ask you to make some comments on the video to be able to pass some information on to LiveWire. This video is about the case for DC fast charging for the LiveWire Del Mar. As I'm sure you all know, the Del Mar at this point is coming with level 2 charging with no option for level 3. So at the same time the Del Mar was introduced on May 10th, on that day Tesla came out with an edict that it was going to switch all of its Tesla chargers with a Tesla plug to CCS. So we're going to talk about what that number is, but what that basically does is that triples the number of CCS chargers like overnight immediately. And I'm going to talk about a meeting that was had at the Biden administration with Elon Musk, but all the future growth for public charging stations is going to be CCS, and we're going to talk about what happened and why that's true. Tesla has the only viable CCS strategy and is the only company with the data needed to properly place chargers, and other public charging networks are toast. Now by that I mean EVgo, Electrify America, ChargePoint, all those guys are in big trouble, and we're going to talk about why. So first of all, we need to understand the difference between using a Tesla supercharger and using a regular CCS charger, because this is important so you understand where the charging networks are going and what's happening. So if you have, say, a Tesla Model 3, what happens is when you're going somewhere, the way you charge it is you put in your navigation where you're going, and the car picks out which charger you're to charge at. So it figures out the most likely open charger. It actually communicates with the charging network from the car. So it knows when chargers are not working and when they are working. It also knows what kind of traffic there's going to be when you get there, because it's tracking everybody's data in the different cars that they're driving. The Tesla cars report back to the charging network in terms of where they are. Now, a few miles before you get to the charger, the car heats up the battery pack for a faster charge. So apparently these lithium-ion batteries charge faster when they're hotter, so the car can sense when it's getting close to the charger. So a few miles, maybe 5 minutes before you get there, you get a message on the screen that it's preparing the battery pack for charging. So that's a unique thing also. Now, when you arrive at the charger, you plug it in and it starts charging within 3 seconds. So you plug the plug in, click, it starts charging. Now, if something is wrong with your credit card on file, because you have a credit card on file with Tesla, it will charge the car anyway and send you an email asking you to update your credit card information. So these chargers never leave you stranded. If you get there and plug in, it's going to charge. And if there's something wrong with your card or something else, it's just going to charge the car anyway and send you an email asking you to update your information. It's not going to strand you, okay? Now, when you plug in, also the car, there's no screen on the charger, but the screen in the car tells you how long you're going to be at the charger to charge. Now, to give you a feeling for it, 180 miles takes 12 minutes. So in my case, sometimes I go to Berkeley to visit my son. So my wife and I stop at a place called Kettleman's, which is on the 5. You pull in, you plug in the car, it says 12 minutes to go, and you run in quick like a bunny, use the restrooms, get a soda, get back in the car, your 12 minutes is up. If you don't get done in time, or if you stay much longer than that, it actually gives you a fine. But there's no waiting. I mean, 12 minutes goes really fast, and 180 miles is like 2.5, 3 hours worth of driving. But on the trip to Berkeley from LA, it's one stop, okay? So that's how it works. And you get billed a standard price based on kilowatt hours and fined if you loiter on the charger. So that's how it works. So if you hang it on the charger, you don't get off, it starts giving you a fine. So we've all seen that. That's the Tesla charger. That's how it works. That's how charging should work. Now, let's talk about what happens on a non-Tesla CCS charger. So these would be the ones that LiveWire 1 can charge on right now. All right, now the way you use these chargers is you run an app on your phone that shows chargers on a map. You estimate which one you want to use, and you hope it's not broken when you get there. Now, some of these apps even have a little thing where you can take a picture or make a note, hey, this one wasn't working on this day, and all this kind of stuff, but there's no way to know if it's working. And many times, it's not working, okay? Now, upon arrival, every charger works differently. Now, when I say that, I mean Charge America, EVgo, ChargePoint, whatever, they all work differently. There is no standard user interface, and everybody's got a different billing plan. Some of the ChargePoint chargers charge you for parking while you're sitting there to do it. It's kind of like an added-on fee later. Some charge by the minute, some have a setup fee or like a connect fee. You just never know what you're going to pay, especially EVgo, man. I get ripped off there all the time. But anyway, they have screens, they have buttons, they have credit card readers. You see all the stuff, it's a very complicated deal. And they have apps you can load on your phone to get a better price and maybe eliminate loitering fees. Now, what happens there is very frustrating because you'll be at a shopping mall or something where there's one of these chargers and there'll be a car sitting on there. It's just sitting on there for like an hour after it's done charging. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do. And when the person comes out, it turns out that they don't care because they're a member of EVgo, and when you're a member, you don't pay the loitering fee, so they don't care. So, you know, that's the kind of problems you have. Now, assuming that you get there and you arrive and you plug in and you get your credit card cleared after you do all this stuff, which is a process, after the credit card clears, what they do is they charge you at least a $50 fee on your credit card because they're concerned that your credit card doesn't have enough money on it to charge, so they think you might be a car, so they'll put like a $50 hold on your card, which is not bad, but on my trip to San Francisco, I charged 6 times, so there was over a $300 hold on my credit card, which stayed there for 10 days over stupid charging that cost me like, you know, $4 or $5 a pop, so my wife was not too happy about that. But anyway, after the card clears and they put the hold on it, it takes about 1.5 minutes for the charger to communicate with the car. So it says like, you know, looking and all this stuff and talking to network and all this stuff, and it takes about 1.5 minutes. And if you get an error, it takes another 1.5 minutes. So the Tesla charges immediately within 3 seconds. These things take 1.5 minutes. Okay, now the other thing too is you got a screen here and you get error messages on the screen if something's going wrong, and the error messages on the screen are sometimes different than the ones in the car. So like it gets confusing, okay? So anyway, the other thing is when you're charging, it estimates a time to 80% or sometimes 100%. The time is usually never correct, and it has nothing to do with where you're going on your trip because the charger has no idea where you're going. So nobody knows how long you should really be there, so you have to guess, okay? Which you usually guess to have more safety, and you wind up charging more than you need to charge. But my point is that in the case of Electrify America, which is what this is, it's a completely different experience than Tesla, and it's terrible, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about why Electrify America is like that, and EVgo and all the rest of them. I'm going to talk about why it's like that, but it's important to understand in terms of why LiveWire needs to be able to charge on the Tesla network. Now, supercharger on the left, Tesla supercharger on the left, everything else on the right. Okay, the supercharger is designed by engineers. So what that means is the Tesla engineers sat down and they figured out the best way to build a charger. Okay, now, I actually met with a vice president at Electrify America, and I said, why do you guys have all those buttons and credit card readers and all this stuff? Why don't you get rid of all that stuff and just do it like Tesla, just plug in and charge? And what the guy told me is he said that Electrify America was paid for by the Volkswagen Dieselgate money, and as part of the settlement with the government, with the U.S. government, they set a specification saying that these chargers that were being paid for by the Volkswagen money from the fine, that they had to have self-serve screens and buttons and credit card readers so anybody could walk up and get instructions on how to use the charger on the screen and clear the credit cards and all this stuff. So basically, these other chargers that are silly, they're designed by bureaucrats, okay? It's a specification they had to meet to be able to get the money, okay? So that's what kind of nonsense is going on. Now, I'll say something else that maybe I'm saying it too soon in the presentation, but I read through the specification for the $7.5 billion that the Biden administration is spending on chargers. And in the specification, they say that a certain amount of money has to be spent in low-income neighborhoods. So not only are we designing the chargers by bureaucrats, but we're placing them by bureaucrats to make sure everybody gets enough money. So all these low-income neighborhoods are going to have nice Electrify America chargers that they won't use, and they'll get vandalized. I mean, it's crazy. You don't place chargers based on bureaucrats, and you don't design chargers based on bureaucrats, and that's what's happening. Now, Tesla's uptime on the chargers in 2021, verified and measured, published 99.96, it's working. So in other words, that's incredible reliability. You don't have a problem with coming up to, chargers that don't work, okay? The other guys, they don't even have an idea of what this is. In other words, the different networks put together don't know what their reliability is. And a lot of time it's not good. I've seen these chargers like out for weeks. In fact, when you have a LiveWire, you kind of get to know in your area which chargers work and which ones don't. And sometimes you go to a place where there might be more than one charger, you know which ones work and which ones don't. I mean, it's silly. Okay, now this is a critical thing. They had a bid in Texas to install a bunch of chargers, and they got quotes from Tesla, and they got quotes from other companies like Electrify America, EVgo, about placing chargers. Tesla's quote was $30,000 was the cost to install the charger. So to purchase and install the charger, $30,000. Okay, you can see why, because there's nothing to it. I mean, it's a thing hanging with a cord on it, okay? The other guys, the average cost to install was $150,000, which means that the Tesla supercharger is a 5-to-1 in terms of price to put one in. Now, the other thing that's going on is the Tesla superchargers are installed in 3 days. And I've seen this a lot because I drive up and down the 15. They just put a bunch of new Tesla chargers in Barstow. And the way it works is these chargers are manufactured by Tesla as prefab units. So they build the whole charger and the whole thing, the platform and all the electronics and everything. It goes on a flatbed truck, and they drive the trucks there and they unload them and they stick them on the ground and they're ready to go. Okay, that's how they're doing it. They're doing like prefab chargers. They're making them in Buffalo, New York. They're making them in Fremont, California. They have another factory in China that's making them. They're turning out these things like crazy, and a lot of them are prefab. They just come in, drop them down, ready to go. Now, at the same time, I saw 4 chargers go in at the In-N-Out Burger in Anaheim. It took like 6 to 8 weeks. They come in, they dig a hole, they come back, they do concrete, the electrician comes in, they put the units there, they're wrapped in plastic. A couple of weeks later, somebody comes, takes the plastic off. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? Now, Tesla superchargers, the location's driven by data. So what happens? Tesla's got 800,000, more than 800,000 cars in the United States driving around. They know where everybody's going, they know how fast they're going, where they're stopping, everything else. So they know from the data they gather from the cars where the chargers need to be in order to best, serve the traffic that's going. Okay, now in the case of the other guys like EVgo, Electrify America, ChargePoint, what they're doing, at least in the case for the Biden administration, is they're driving their locations by equality, meaning that everybody gets an equal thing. So it's a political thing about where your charger goes, which is ridiculous. That has nothing to do with serving the people that are driving these cars. Now, if you take the total number of stalls, Tesla supercharger stalls, and you divide it by the number of Teslas in the United States, you get 55. So for every 55 cars, there's a supercharger. Now, that's interesting because it's about $500. So basically what Tesla's doing is every time they sell a car, they set aside $500, And that's how they're building out their supercharger network, okay? So, I mean, that's great. I wish the other OEMs would have started doing this 10 years ago when Tesla did, more than 10 years ago. But anyway, the way everybody else is doing it is there's no coordination with OEMs. In other words, these charging networks have no idea where to put the chargers for the other OEMs like Ford or GM or whatever, because Ford and GM don't even collect the data. So they've got no data. They've got no way to give it to the charging network. So it's like a giant mess. Okay, now, I'll tell you how this comes into play. Okay, we talked about this before. $7.5 billion government giveaway to the auto OEMs and charging providers. Okay, now what happened is the Biden administration had a meeting on April 6, 2022, where they brought in Elon Musk and Mary Barra, and they brought in, Electrify America and ChargePoint. They had everybody in the room, okay? Now, prior to that meeting, on December 7th, 2021, Elon Musk told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "There is no need for support for a charging network. I would delete it, delete." Now, what he's talking about there is Tesla doesn't need a charging network because they already have one. And I can tell you, because my wife has a Tesla, that there's no problem. She can go anywhere she wants. She can supercharge. Very rarely is there a wait. I mean, everything is working fine, okay? So then Musk goes in on 4/6/22 and attends the Biden meeting with the OEMs and the people from the charging networks. Now, a month later, he announces that Tesla is switching to CCS. Now, I'll tell you why that happened. Elon is concerned about the other car companies failing because he knows that they haven't got the information, they haven't got the right equipment, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how the charge process works. As a matter of fact, just to give you an idea, if you go to the Electrify America website, they're bragging about how they're putting in high-end charger places where you have like a lounge and everything to wait around while your car's charging, and how nice that's going to be. I mean, does Electrify America not know that you're going to be there for 12 minutes? I mean, what do they need a lounge for if you're going to be there for 12 minutes? I mean, they don't even know. And I talked to another guy, an executive at Electrify America, and he told me that what their strategy was is they want to have it so that when you're driving along and you run out of electricity in your car, you just pull over and charge at Electrify America, that there's so many of them, you just use one whenever you need it. Well, that's not how electric cars work. How electric cars work is you put in your navigation where you're going, and it figures out how to get you there with the open chargers to get you charged in the fastest amount of time and get the trip done. You don't drive around till you run out of electricity and look for a place to stop. That's not how it's done. But anyway, my point is Elon Musk sits in there with Mary Barra, who is an idiot, okay, and listens to all this stuff and listens to their strategies and realizes that they're not going to make it. So what he does is he decides to go CCS. Now, the problem with that is that's a giant inconvenience to current Tesla owners. In other words, we paid for the network, we have the thing, everything's working fine, so why is Elon Musk messing it up? Well, he's messing it up so the other guys don't fail. But what's really going to happen, and this is the important thing you need to understand for the Del Mar charging, is he will take care of Tesla owners by building out the Tesla charging network faster so they don't have to wait for a charge. So what he's going to do, he's going to dominate charging. So in other words, he's dominating electric cars, he's dominating space, he's doing all this stuff, and now he's going to dominate the charging network because these other guys are fools. They're like, look what's happened. They spent all this Volkswagen money, everything else, and they haven't got anything as good as Tesla. And Tesla was there before, so they couldn't even copy. So, I mean, that's how desperate this thing is. But my point is that Elon and Tesla are going to be dominating the charging. It's going to be level 3, and it's going to build out like crazy. Now, let's look at the real numbers. Currently, there are 16,164 supercharger stalls in the United States at 1,347 locations. So that's what there is today, okay? There are 5,106 public CCS stalls in 2,400 locations in the US. Now, the reason that this is interesting is a Tesla supercharger stop usually has many more stalls. Usually, like Electrify America or something, they might have 4, 6, 8. I mean, Tesla, sometimes you go in there, they have like 20. I think the one in Baker, California, they got like 30 or 40. I mean, they know how many they need, okay? But anyway, there's a grand total of 21,270 DC fast charging stalls today, which is triple what there was before in terms of what would be available for LiveWire to charge. So overnight, on May 10th, when LiveWire introduced the Del Mar, that same day, Tesla came out with 3 times the number of level 3 chargers, and at the same time, I believe has a strategy to basically totally dominate and take everything over. Okay, so Tesla is going to use low-cost prefab chargers placed by data to dominate the charging infrastructure. Okay, now the point is, there's no plans for Tesla to build out a level 2 chargers on the table. It's going level 3. So if you want to be in the electric vehicle business, you've got to charge level 3 because that's what's out there. That's what's being built out in the future. And level 2, that's like, you know, that's like yesterday's thing. I mean, that's not what's going on now. LiveWire needs to position itself as the Tesla of motorcycles. Okay, we're already that with the LiveWire 1. I mean, the LiveWire 1 is like a Tesla Model S. Okay, I mean, that is a really, really high-end cool motorcycle. We have to make sure that LiveWire positions itself as the Tesla motorcycles. Now, Zero motorcycles is level 2. Super 73 motorcycles are level 2, even the ones they're coming out with next year. And Chinese motorcycles are charging level 2. So LiveWire 1 charges level 3. Del Mar must differentiate itself from inferior motorcycles and charge level 3. Okay, so, you know, that is a marketing breakpoint. You cannot get the quality so low that you drop to level 2 instead of level 3. I'm sure that level 3 is harder. I'm sure there's more stress on the batteries. I'm sure it's more expensive, but I believe the engineers need to burn some midnight oil and that the marketing people need to let them do it. This motorcycle needs to be level 3. Now, there's something else that just blows me away. Okay, the people in Milwaukee, I don't think understand what it's like to be in big cities. I mean, you're close to Chicago, so you must understand. But anyway, city dwellers live in apartments and condos. Okay, there's no place to plug in an electric motorcycle. Okay, so like my son Preston's in Berkeley. He's living in a dorm. Okay, he doesn't have access to a plug, and you can't just sit the bike on a charger and walk away. Okay, I mean, you got to go get it. Other people want to use the charger. So what he does, he fast charges on the way home or on the way back to the dorm. So when he's ready to go the next day, the bike's ready. So he's charged almost all level 3 because he doesn't have any access to a plug, and you can't leave it on the charger. You can't be walking back and forth from your dorm room to the charger, so you charge level 3. Anybody that lives in an apartment or a condo or high-rise or anything else, they got to have level 3 because there's no access to a plug. And you can't leave your bike sitting on a level 2 and then come back and get it a couple hours later. That's silly. So college students live in dormitories. There's no place for that. So basically, LiveWire is engineered to fail in the markets that it's supposed to address. So in other words, you guys at LiveWire are advertising that this is an urban assault vehicle, basically. This is like an urban machine. Well, if it's an urban machine, you got to have level 3 because there's no place to plug it in for level 2 or level 1. So it's important if you're going to position the bike as something to run in Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago and New York and Dallas and Detroit, you know, you got to have level 3. But anyway, I want you to listen to your customers. I'm talking to LiveWire here. Every single LiveWire customer I have communicated with says level 3 is a must for Del Mar. Now, these are people that are riding LiveWire 1s. We know what it's like to travel around and move around, and we know what it's like to charge, and you need level 3 fast charging. Okay, so please reconsider your decision not to include DC fast charging on Del Mar. Please reconsider it. It's important. If you don't do it, I believe it's going to be wrong. You're really limiting yourself by not putting level 3. Now, what I would ask for is that people that have watched this far in the video, please comment. Let us know whether or not you're currently an electric vehicle owner. Let us know what the charging means to you. And for people that are maybe thinking about electric motorcycle, let us know if DC fast charging would be important to you. So please put that down in the comments. I usually do a book review or something at the end. I have a couple to do, but I just wanted to get this video out and have people comment, and let's start the conversation. But there's still time. LiveWire Del Mar needs to have level 3 charging. Thanks. Have a good evening.